Today, I am telling a story. A story about dreams, a story about nightmares, a story about Christmas. Welcome to History Review. Yes, you heard right. I'm telling you a story. I'm telling you a story about how I woke up, but I didn't. I woke up in another realm, in another existence. But how is that possible? What's going on? I don't know, but it was the gods speaking to me. Christmas is cancelled. You saw the rolling credits. It's cancelled. I had an epiphany. I had a dream. Was it a dream, or did I just wake up somewhere else? Who knows? I woke up in this strange place. Concrete around me, cinder blocks. Nothing else around, just empty. I looked around, I couldn't see anything, couldn't see anyone, just these buildings. What's that about? So I stand up, I get up, blah blah blah, and I look around, and I see a Christmas jumper. This Christmas jumper. I grab it and I walk away and I look around and I'm trying to figure out what it is. Something tells me. Something talks to me. I find out this strange place was actually an anti-aircraft shelter where they had guns and stuff. There were four guns they had, and all these different buildings, and there's also a little command post. I'm thinking, why am I here? I'm thinking, okay, Christmas is cancelled this year. Santa's on furlough. What if this is the gods speaking to me and telling me that Christmas doesn't have to be cancelled, I just have to look back in the past? And that's what I realised. And I turned around and I started filming with an imaginary camera. I don't know, dreams are weird. And upon reviewing that recording, the audio was trash. What a nightmare. Genuinely, out of character. What a nightmare. Why didn't I check the audio? Turns out my mic was out of battery. Whatever. That's why I'm here. To narrate. So while this place I was at is World War II, that's when it's dated, it brought me back to something I hear about all the time about Christmas in history and struggles like we have now. Truce of 1914. It's a well-known story. I'll tell it anyway. Christmas Day, 1914. 5 months into World War One. Soldiers in trenches, morale is low. Horrendous conditions, like just awful. You got the Brits and the Germans fighting each other. But then on this day, 25th of December 1914, the Brits and the Germans jump out of the trenches and they play football together. They exchange gifts. They exchange season's greetings. The Christmas truce, as it's known, and it's very culturally important, especially here in the UK, because it's a sign of peace and a sign of hope, and I think we need that right now. A lot of people think that this was the only time, but actually these, what they called live and let live truces happened a few times. I can't say for sure, different sources. Some sources say they happened all the time. Some sources say they only happened occasionally. I'm guessing it varies depending on where, when, who, what, you know. There's going to be a lot of variables, right? But these truces were often for people who wanted to trade cigarettes, they wanted to exchange food, just want to say hello, maybe. We're all human. And maybe a lot of them were retrieving bodies. There's a lot of that. Now, I really like this because it's kind of like a very human thing. It kind of reminds you that Christmas is a human thing, and war isn't really. War came from the higher-ups. The people in the trenches, they didn't hate that other person on the other side of the trench that they were fighting. No. That's just what they had to do at that time, in a time where there was no peace. And I think it's very symbolic to today, where we're all locked inside. There's been indifferences this year. A lot of division has happened. I'm not going to get into that because that's modern history. We don't do that here. But I think we could look back in the past and just remember that and try and unite for this one Christmas. Do something good. In the shitstorm that is 2020. World War II brought along more festive cheer. I couldn't find anything about these truces happening during World War II. They might have, they might not have. I imagine probably did. But World War II was when we had the Blitz, and when, you know, families would have had like literal air raid shelters in their garden made out of corrugated metal. And again, Christmas Day, when you're like a family out in a city, and like you could be bombed at any moment. You're all on rations. It very much feels like what 2020 is. Obviously we're not going to get bombed, but we're all locked in. Pubs are closed. I'm definitely not rationing, but you know, it's same kind of thing, and I think we could learn from that. As a country, we have been through worse, and I think it's good to remember that and to push on and to celebrate. But then, as I was talking about that, I started feeling woozy. I started to think, wait, I woke up here and I'm just talking about Christmas. What is going on? I became self-aware. And if you become self-aware during a dream, you're not dreaming anymore. You wake up. And I just collapsed. But I didn't really. Except I didn't even wake up. No. It keeps going. It keeps going. Whew. Yes, I woke up in the woods. Gaveston Woods, yes, where we were last time with the cross. Why was I there? Was this the gods telling me to dig deeper to the true meaning of Christmas? Maybe. So I did dig deeper. Well, I didn't. Some people in the 1970s did. Yes, I found these stone circles. These stone circles are mad. There's a whole load of them dotted in this one area of the woods. Some are more preserved than others, but they are little circles of stone, bit of rocks that have sunk into the ground. And like, the last time I was there, walked past them, they look natural. Since then, I've been shown them, thanks to a very good friend of mine, and they're wicked. They were found during that 1970s dig I mentioned in the last video, where they dug because it is an ancient site. And they found these little stone circles, and they don't know what they were for, but they still remain. You have to look for them, but they're quite easy to find even with the autumn leaves all over the ground. It turns out these rocks are actually dating back all the way back to the Bronze Age, as the stone circles often do. No one knows exactly what for. They don't look like foundations for houses, and they don't look like anything for like practical purposes. They probably for religious or ceremonial reasons. There are records of an ancient Saxon church in this site. Maybe this was part of that, although that would have been later on in the history. The Saxons didn't come to the UK till long later. Now, a lot of people think of Celtic tribes when they think of these people. Now, the term Celtic is a bit of a weird one, because it's not even a word that those people used. The word Celtic actually comes from Latin Celta, which is the word that the Romans used to describe the Gauls, which were a Celtic tribe. And it means barbarian, that kind of thing. But throughout history, it stuck. Now, if you look at all of these stone circles in the UK, and the burial mounds, which there are many, including Stonehenge, people relate them to the Celts, but actually they existed before Celtic culture came to the UK. And to make this even more confusing, if you look at genetics, when Celtic culture came to the UK, there was no genetic shift, there was no replacement of genetics, so there was no invasion or any replacement of people. What actually happened is through trade and through a few people maybe entering the UK and migrating, and people migrating out, the culture spread, not genes. There is no Celtic blood. It's a culture that spread and people adopted. And when this spread, yeah, they carried on using the stone circles, but they existed before that. They were built by proper old school Bronze Age people, like the bell beakers. Christmas comes from a few different sources. This one celebration we have has loads of different roots in different places. But the main root of it, really, that I can find is through paganism, through the Celts, the Norse, and probably even Bronze Age like the bell beakers. And even the Romans before they were Christian. The Norse, the Vikings, they called Christmas Yule. Yule is a Nordic word. And this was celebrated on the 21st of December, which is Yule. We still recognise that day as Yule today. That is the winter solstice. That is when the sun is still in the sky for 3 days. That's what they thought back in the day. It's not quite accurate, but kind of works. But it's where you have the longest night and the shortest day. And then from then on, the nights get shorter and the days get longer, and you start moving towards springtime. So it kind of marked a time when you've gotten through the harsh winter, because back then there was no central heating, there was no defrosting of cars, there were no cars. You know, winter was tough. There were no freezers to freeze food, so you had to preserve your food and eat preserved food for like all winter. So winter was tough, so they celebrated this event where the days finally start to get longer. It's Yule. And the Vikings very much celebrated this, but it kind of goes in tandem with the Celts who also celebrated it. The Druids of Celtic culture would ceremonially place evergreen plants into the home around this time to represent life keep on going even though the winter's harsh. And this includes pine, mistletoe, and a whole host of other things. Holly as well, actually. Holly's another big one. That's very familiar, right? Yeah, of course it is, because it's the same thing. They would also hang effigies and like place effigies around the house. You know, like we do. So that's a surviving thing from Celtic culture. Now, we do it on December 25th, but I mean, we put up decorations before, right? Yeah, sure. How on earth did that become a Christian celebration about Jesus on December 25th instead of 21st? That's where the Romans come in. But first we're going to rewind. We're going to go back to pagan Romans. Romans celebrated the Roman Parthenon. They had their own celebrations around this time. Saturnalia is the big one. A lot of people relate Christmas to Saturnalia. Saturnalia is a massive, massive Roman festival. It was more celebrating harvest, obviously, because Italy, as we know it today, is kind of Mediterranean, hot, sunny, compared to Britain and a lot of Europe, especially up north, you know, Scandinavia area. So they harvested later quite often, and so they were celebrating harvest. They were celebrating a different thing, but they had these days-long celebrations of Saturnalia where things were flipped around. Slaves were masters, that kind of thing, and the people were the politics. The Romans also celebrated on December 25th the birth of Merthyr, who was the god of the unconquerable sun. The celebration doesn't really have that many correlations with Christmas, except for the date and the birth of the sun, or the god of the sun. A lot of the Christian celebrations were on different dates. A lot of people know that Jesus was actually born in the summer, not during December. I don't know exactly what the date is, but that's, you know, there are massive theories about that. And it's probably true because they probably saw all of these people celebrating the birth of the sun around this time, because the sun now will be in the sky for longer as the winter's not over but halfway, you know. And they probably had just adapted it, like, okay, we've got the birth of the sun and the birth of the Son of God, we'll put those together, you know. And it wasn't like it happened in one day. It would have happened gradually, and gradually, until you've got what we call Christmas now, where we've got this weird mash between celebrating the birth of Christ, but also you've also got Santa and snow and holly and pine, like it's and reindeer, and these all have crazy origins, and I'm not going to go into the exact origins, but I just want to talk about Christmas and how it's actually a celebration of getting out of struggles, or starting to get out of struggles, because we're not, you know, the pandemic isn't over, but I think we're starting to see the tail end of it, and at the same time we're seeing the tail end of winter in the distance. So I think that's the message I took from this journey, is that we need to remember that Christmas is a celebration of getting through something, and we've been through something. We've been through a tough year. So that's my history review. And I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope I'm still awake and not in a dream. Who knows? Anyway, see you on the flip side. I'm going to do more videos next year. I've got big plans. As soon as I can travel more, and as soon as I've got more time, I'm going to do some awesome stuff. I've got some great ideas up in here, so I'll see you around.